An indictment in the Uranium One scandal. Mark Lambert, the former head of a Maryland transit firm, is accused of bribing Russians for nuclear contracts. So what does it mean for the investigation? Judicial Watch President Tom Fenton has forced open many of the probes based on his Freedom of Information Act lawsuits, and he joins us live from D.C. Good morning to you. Thanks for joining us on this holiday.
You're welcome. How are you?
I'm doing okay. So this Mark Lambert character who headed up this trucking firm in Maryland, money laundering, it sounds like conspiracy, wire fraud. Who is this guy?
Well, he had contracts with the Russian-owned state uranium company, essentially Tenex, and allegedly he was giving kickbacks to Tenex officials who were sharing proceeds with other Russians who were involved in the uranium industry here in the United States. And the reason they were involved in the uranium industry here in the United States and actually had expanded involvement was because of the Uranium One related decision-making made by the Obama administration, made despite them knowing that this type of activity was going on. Right. The sort of bribery kickback schemes that are endemic in Russia and Russia-related industries, no matter where they're operating. And secondly, them sending tens of millions of dollars into the Clinton Foundation in order to make sure that the right decisions would be made by the State Department under Hillary Clinton that would allow them to expand their activities here in the United States.
And ultimately, the deal was approved, and that fast forwards us to this point. A lot of members of Congress on the Republican side were upset that this was not thoroughly investigated. And in fact, Tom, I believe it was in December, the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, said he encouraged the Department of Justice to reopen the case. Is this indictment a byproduct of that, or do we know?
We don't know for sure, but it's, I don't think, coincidental a few months after it's reported about the fact that the Justice Department under Obama was hiding this in plain sight from the American people and certainly hiding key information from Congress. And then the Justice Department under Jeff Sessions responds, hey, we're going to take another look at this. There's a new indictment to follow up on an indictment that had been sitting out there, or a conviction had been sitting out there since 2015.
Right.
This is about, in the end, what steps they're going to take about what happened with Hillary Clinton. Now we've got the bribery going on with the Russian transportation here in the United States. You've got the Uranium One side of it. Is the Clinton gang going to be investigated by the Sessions Justice Department as aggressively as it ought to happen?
Answer that question. Will they?
We'll see. This is a follow-up to the last part of the investigation. We are supposedly out of Little Rock. Both the U.S. Attorney and the FBI down there are looking at pay-to-play allegations with the foundation. One would hope Uranium One is part of it. But there's tens of millions of dollars that were laundered through laundered by Russians into the Clinton operation that needs to be thoroughly investigated in order for the American people to be rest assured that our uranium industry hasn't been compromised.
Indeed. Well, stay tuned.
Fox News alert: new fallout after allegations that President Trump made vulgar comments about Haiti and African nations during an immigration meeting last week, a private meeting. Now, at least 4 Democratic lawmakers say they are boycotting the president's State of the Union address later this month in response to the controversy. Here's what a couple of them have said.
Why would I take my time to go and sit and listen to a liar, to someone who lies in the face of facts, who's someone who can change their tune day in and day out? What does he have to say that I would be interested in?
In good conscience, I cannot and will not sit there and listen at him as he gives the State of the Union address.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s niece says that may not be the most productive way forward.
I want to remind Congressman Lewis of what we have been fighting for so long. My uncle said, I am convinced that men hate each other because they don't know each other. And they don't know each other because they don't communicate with each other. And they don't communicate with each other because they are separated from each other. I just would like to see conversation along with the pain and agony that the congressman is expressing.
I want to introduce you to somebody new to the program. Bruce Lavelle is on the president's 2020 advisory board. He joins me now. Great to see you. Thank you for being here. I know that last Monday, because you told me, you spent about a half an hour with President Trump. You were in the motorcade on the way to the Georgia game. What did he tell you?
Well, thanks for having me. I just left the King celebration, and I was actually sitting with Alveda King. We had more conversations about what this topic on the John Lewis and the other Congress people who don't want to come to the State of the Union. But the interesting thing is the president did more questions. He asked more questions to me and Alveda. We were accompanying him to the game, and it was a very awesome, productive conversation. One of the things is that he was very excited about the black unemployment rate being low in the history of the U.S., as well as wanting to see it even lower. And he talked a lot about the entire week about the King celebration and how far we've come and how far we can go. And this came out of the President of the United States' mouth. He also was elated at the fact that this new Urban Revitalization Commission that's coming out, led by Pastor Darrell Scott and many more leaders across the country, that you're going to see this come out. It's going to be a tremendous asset to a lot of the urban communities, especially African-American communities. He's very excited about that. Also, jobs, as well as business owners, black business owners like myself, Harris. I'm an African-American business owner here in Atlanta. I am a prodigy of my uncles and my family marching with John Lewis and Dr. King. So I have civil rights side on my dad's side here in Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm one of the largest jewelry store owners in the country, African-American owned. I was a developer. There's many more people like me that look like me who look at us, Harris, look at you, look at me. You're a Fox News, you're a star, you know. So we've come a long way. We do have a long way to go, but look where we're at. And so that's pretty much the temperament that was in the car that we had in terms of the atmosphere.
But that was several days or a couple of days before the remarks that the president is said to have made about Haiti and other African nations. Has anything changed for you?
No, absolutely. You know, it's unfortunate because, you know, you hear my good friend Senator David Perdue here in Georgia, and I actually saw one of his chief staffs here at the King Center this morning, and we talked about it. And, you know, you hear one version of it and this version of it, and the president said he didn't say it that way. But this is the thing for me, Harris, because we keep revisiting this with Congressman Wilson in Florida and Congressman John Lewis telling the world on George Stephanopoulos that the president's illegitimate. This does, Republican or Democrat, this does a disservice to all Americans when you vote your congressperson to go to D.C. to fight for your district, Democrat or Republican. I would be upset if we were talking about a Republican congressman, that my congressman was going to boycott a Democrat president. That we didn't send you up there to be the pulse or the moral navigator. We sent you there as voted by the people, for the people, to fight for jobs, to fight for, my gosh, let's fight for Kia or one of these plants to come to our district to create more jobs, like they're fighting for Amazon. That's a big warfare right now to land Amazon here in Atlanta and other parts of the nation. Those are what we elect our congresspeople for. And it's unfortunate, Harris, that my prayer, and Alveda and I prayed about this morning, that John Lewis and all the other folks would come on board and take a look at even some of their own district that has a high unemployment rate, that has a high crime rate. And I'm not trying to throw them on the bus. I'm trying to bring light to this, that this president, the best developer we have ever had in the Oval Office, that understands people, that understands construction, that understands, like, taking care of America and its troops. So, you know, I'm elated at the fact that he wants to fight for the banking industry, to put small banks back into power, where loan committees look like me and other my colleagues who can actually look at loans and say, hey, we can approve this loan for this African-American couple who wants to start a Subway. These are big things on the horizon. So I just say stay tuned. It's only going to get better. My prayers for Congressman Lewis and Maxine Waters and all the other folks is take care of your district. Don't throw hatred at the president and stuff. Come to the table and let's work together as Americans.
Bruce Lavelle, we can see why you're on the president's 2020 advisory board, and a lot of talk there. You're talking about black employment being what it is now. the best in
Right.
45 years, that sort of thing. We appreciate you coming on, particularly
Yes,
on a
thank
day in
you.
which we recognize some of those that your family marched right alongside with.
Yeah.
Dr. King.
Well, I'm
Thank
pumped
you.
up because Dottie Peoples sang "On Time God." It was an awesome song in the church today, so I'm exhilarated. I'm pumped up, Harris.
I hear you. I like the music too. Great to see you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for.